Welcome, everyone. Dana Williams here, your soul mission mentor and artist of change. And it's time for TGIF tips and tricks. So this week, I want to talk about the core archetypes that are part of each one of us. We all have different archetypes. So, for example, I've always known, since I was a little girl, I always knew what I wanted to grow up and be. And I'm one of those lucky ones that has pretty much fulfilled what I wanted to grow up and be. So my archetypes are a part of my the weave of the pattern of my identity of who I want to be. Okay, so when I was 5 years old, I always knew I wanted to be a mother, and I've had 3 beautiful children. I'm so blessed. And I also always knew I wanted to be an artist. And I am an artist. And I've also wanted to be a teacher. And I wanted to be a nurse. And part of me wanted to be a nun. I was enthralled with the idea of the soul and of whatever that was that created us. So I get to do all of those things now, which is really beautiful. Yes, I didn't become a nun, but I do service work, and I believe that we are all here to evolve back to love. So those are I think 5 archetypes. There's the teacher, there's the artist, there's the mother, there's the healer. I forgot to say, yeah. So I've substituted, instead of becoming a nun, I became a healer. Thank you, God. I'm glad I didn't become a nun. I probably would have been very unhappy. Anyway, okay. So now think about that. So we've got those archetypes. Now, if by any chance I know, let's use the leader archetype. Let's say, okay, so I know I have the leader archetype. Now let's say this end is the high vibrational, the leader in her high vibrational clarity, okay? Now let's say this over here is the shadow of the archetype of the leader. Now, if the person that has the archetype of the leader is not doing their work, and they have all of this stuff, all of these old stories in the shadow, they will be fake leading, because they are not in touch with the polar opposite of that archetype, which would be the coward. So in this case, the leader will try and find ways to fulfill that archetype because it's part of their blueprint. But if their leader is in the shadow, they're so going to be faking it. And they're not going to be a good leader. They're going to be a frustrated leader. So I'm kind of curious to put the idea out to you so that you can just check in with yourself and see, like, what are your core archetypes? You know, if I wasn't doing what I'm doing, I would get sick, because I have to be of service. There's an altruism in me as a leader, in me as a teacher, in me as a healer, in me as a mother, in me as an artist. The idea is to become the high vibrational version and get into the center of the archetype, okay? And get into neutrality. I call it unemotional truth, where, you know, you're going to go and explore the shadow. Think of it like there's a little crow's nest, and you're going to climb up to the top of the crow's nest, and you're going to look over at this vista. You're going to be able to see 360 degrees around. And I want you to be able to look at what's in your shadow. And if that successful, brave leader did their work in their shadow and cleared up any admissions of cowardice to themselves or any awareness of fear, and if they did it in neutrality and unemotional truth, then this person is going to be thriving as a leader. It's going to be like every time they're in clarity, when they're in leadership, it's going to ripple around through their system, and it's going to give them more of a higher vibration each time they are in their truth. Now, on the flip side, each time I am faking it, whether I'm faking it as a musician, maybe I have the musician archetype, and maybe I'm so gifted where I can pick up any instrument and play it, but maybe there's a shadow side there that says, oh, you're not good enough, people are going to judge you or whatever. Well, that person is going to be fake leading their joy of music. So I'm just planting some seeds here so that you can explore your own inner territory and find out where you're faking it. And it's really not that big of a deal to go into the shadow and have a truth talk with yourself, basically. So wherever the shadow is, whatever the story of the shadow, basically, let me grab one of my orphans here. I'll get one that looks a little bit like me. Okay, this is little Dana. So let's say I discover that I have the musician archetype, and I'm really frustrated because I should be singing in a band. I should be, thriving with the joy of music. But let's say I'm faking it, and instead of me allowing myself to go out and do that, I'm going to be frustrated. I'm going to be crabby. I'm going to get sick. So what I would need to do is I would need to check in with my archetype ruler and find out, okay, am I over here? Is there a whole bunch of stories over here where I've got shadow identity as a musician? So basically, I'm just going to find out what those stories are, and I'm going to speak the truth of that out loud. Maybe I was shamed in kindergarten. Maybe, it was music day, and I goofed and everybody laughed at me. Well, that little story, that little T trauma is going to be reminding me to never let myself get shamed in public. So all I would do is just, okay, I was in grade 1. I was supposed to go up to the front of the class and play the drum, and somebody had their foot out and I tripped and fell on the way up to the front of the classroom. It could be that simple, okay? So, then you would just keep saying the truth. Oh, I was so mortified. Everybody was laughing at me. They were teasing me at recess. And the teacher even laughed, and the boy didn't get in trouble that tripped me. There's all kinds of stuff that can happen that can create the shadow. So I'm going to leave you with that idea, and I would love to hear from you. If you want to share with me, email me. You can hit reply to this, or you can go to dana@danalouisewilliams.com and tell me what your archetypes are. I'd be really curious to know. And are you in leadership with your archetype, or are you in the shadow with that archetype and faking it and perhaps frustrated and miserable? So I want you to be the best you can be. And I'm here every Friday to give you some tips and tricks. So if you want to ask for a specific teaching or training, let her rip. I'm happy to give it a shot. And if you want a free 20-minute session with me, there's a link below this, and you can just go ahead and book that. Okay, everybody, TGIF. Enjoy the weekend. Don't take the bait. Don't become the message. Don't fake it. And on that note, have a really lovely weekend and a great week. I'll see you on Tuesday in your inbox, and I'll see you on Friday with another TGIF tips and tricks. Okay. Ciao for now. I got to find that button. There it is.